Good afternoon, everybody. This is your boy Charlie Tubbs III, and thank you so much for being a part of this Thursday's special edition Moments of Clarity. It's so important that we check in with each other, and so today I decided to connect with some of my creative friends, some of my friends that are activists, heavily involved into trying to help move conversations forward as to how we can better our communities and better our countries. And I'm just so happy to be on this platform just to do that. So I believe in trying to check in with people, make sure they're good. And so the theme for this particular podcast is how are you doing? So I want to check in with some men that I know that are influential in their own communities, doing a lot of great things, but also they have a voice. I try to encourage and challenge them that their voice is important, and all of us to know that your voice is important. It's important that if you see something that's a bit off, that's a bit crazy, that you say something. The more we talk about things that are wrong, the more we can get to a place where we are helping to move our communities forward socially. And that's so very, very important. So today I have four guys that's going to be in and out of this conversation. So I'm going to start off with my boy, Brandon Freeman, who I think is having some sinus issues, as you probably can hear. So when we come right back, we'll be live with my boy, Brandon Freeman, on today's Moments of Clarity. Let's go. Hey, what's up, Brandon? How are you, brother?
Allergenic.
I understand what you're going through, man. This tis the season when it all gets crazy, man. I know it's pretty crazy, especially out here in California where you have the wildfires that are just going really, really
Yes.
crazy. And it really is hard to breathe. The air quality is pretty bad out here. So those of you that don't live in California, definitely keep us in prayer. Those of you that are in California, we all praying. So we keep each other up in prayer as we're trying to get through this national some kind of tragedy, man. So it's pretty tough. So Brandon, man, we haven't connected in a minute, man. So how have you been, bro?
Uh, Doing a lot. I've been kind of busy. Yeah, just dealing with a lot. As anybody in the United States probably is at the moment. Yeah. I don't know. I've been okay. I'm surviving, as you can see. I'm here. So yeah.
So you're doing some things, some cool things that you are, because I tell people health is wealth, and so you are running quite a bit, when the air is better, obviously. So you said you've gotten up to like 4 miles and running a day. Is that the idea, or how you doing it?
Well, I mean, I just woke up one morning and was tired of the slug I had become from the whole coronavirus thing, and just not being able to work, not being able to do anything really. I had been picking up my drums and setting them up, and then tearing them down and moving them again, at least 3 to 4 times. But then I would do that once and twice, so 6 to 8 times, a week. And I wasn't doing that anymore. Lifting all that stuff is a workout. I wasn't getting that anymore, and I needed to, just basically do something. So I went and bought some running shoes and I started running. And before you know it, I can wake up in the morning and run 5 kilometers. So
That's what's up.
yeah.
That's pretty dope. That's dope, man. So with all the stuff that's going on in the social world and the political world that we live in, I'm surprised you're not running a lot more. Because especially if you run for as a stress reliever, you probably would have made it to the Bay Area by now.
Man. Yeah, fire season has really put a damper on my fitness journey right now, just because once again, can't really be outside running when the sky is literally composed of smoke. Like there is no air in it. You know what I mean? So this is man, my wife just bought two pretty heavy duty air purifiers for the house.
Oh,
It's crazy,
gotcha.
man. So yeah. So it's kind of been a little bit of a bummer actually not being able to run every day, because when you're doing that, it changes your brain chemistry. Like especially, you wake up early in the morning, you run before you do anything else. Like I was literally getting out of bed, putting my shoes on and going.
Right.
And I would start my day off really well. And I would notice, difference, a lot of the, depression and whatnot that I would deal with, was kind of melting away and things like that. But yeah, fire season came, and I mean, it's kind of counterproductive if I'm trying to be healthy and active, but I'm going out there killing myself running, with the smoke.
Right.
So, yeah, it is what it is. Waiting, just for the air quality to get back to where it needs to be so I can get back on the train. Me and my big homie George, we are kind of remotely collaborating on training to run. I don't know, some sort of event. The original goal that we set was to be able to run a 5K by next spring, but I can wake up and knock that out very easily now. So we're trying to just get to the longest event that we can. Really, a marathon is a bit of a stretch because that's what, like 25 miles or something crazy.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, but but I mean, I at least be able to want to be able to rather get a good time on like a 10K. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's what's up, man. I mean that I mean, again, health is wealth, man. So I'm doing my
Yes.
part. I'm juicing now, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting in at least 12, 13,000 steps a day. And that's going to eventually start to jogging as well, and then ultimately to running. So just getting back in the habit of it. I don't want to just get out there and start running because, man, listen, y'all, listen, we'll be calling the police for a whole nother reason because I
Man.
fell out.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So cool. So there's so much stuff going on now. I know you watched. If you did, I don't know if you watched the debate. I don't know if you could stomach it.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah. So I didn't intentionally. I didn't tune into it. I was not going to allow 90 minutes of my day to be robbed.
I spent
With
about 5.
So you watched for 5 minutes?
I turned it on. I mean, the opening salvo was like, no, Mr. Wait, but can no. Like, I'm like, okay, all right, nope, bye. And then I tried again, maybe like 10 minutes later, like, okay, let me see if I can. Nope, same thing. And I was done. So I tried to, I tried to get locked in twice, and
Man, you are better than me. I could not. I was not going to lend 90 minutes. That I wasn't going to lend that to my day. I wasn't going to do it. What's up? What's up, Aaron Frisbee, man?
Hey.
Hey, what's up, bro? But yeah, so okay, cool. So there's so much that's happened since we've talked. Situation, the verdict with Breonna Taylor situation. Yeah, the debate. Man, it's crazy on top of crazy that's happening, man. So how do you respond to any of that? Let's start with the Breonna Taylor stuff.
Breonna Taylor is particularly heartbroken because, as we as Black people know, the Black woman is the most abused, brutalized, battered, beaten down, taken advantage of, just horribly treated group in this country. Well, that's Black trans women, but we'll get into that later. But Black women as a whole, are just not. It's horrible. Brothers don't treat them white. Nobody else does. And we're supposed to protect them, and we're on the front lines of doing them dirty. So that whole thing, you know what I mean? This woman died in her sleep. Her man tried to protect her from unidentified intruders. You know what I mean? So it's just that whole thing. And then for her murderers to literally have only been charged for the bullets that did not hit her.
That stressed me out probably more than anything else.
He literally was charged for the bullets that missed her. The ones that hit her, he got off scot-free on. The ones that missed her are the ones that he got charged for. A good woman with no criminal history, who was an EMT, who was killed in her sleep by police, who were at the wrong house serving a no-knock warrant on someone who had already been apprehended, and no punishment has been levied for her death. Obviously, I'm sick to my stomach. I don't respond to how. What am I supposed to do?
But so what does that say about the judicial system? I mean, how broke it is. I mean, it just says it's extremely broke because, like, the attorney general was found a loophole, and that's sort of kind of what got these guys off. Found a loophole in the law, and that's what sort of got them off. And I'm like, that's crazy. It says a lot about who that attorney general is, for one, to allow that to read that information and know that that's problematic towards the situation, but still on the still. And his was what was more important for him and most attorneys is the win, not necessarily the justice, but the win.
Yes.
And so it was more important for him to make sure that he won and that those guys got off more than it was about justice. And man, that hurts. That stings in a
Laws are
serious
not
way.
about justice.
Yeah, so it makes justice in this country seem like an illusion, right?
Justice in this country has always been an illusion. In my opinion, justice in any system where laws are the end all be all instead of what's right and wrong is an illusion, because we have to realize that laws are written by people with power. No matter who has power, laws are written by those people. And so it's absolutely inconceivable to think that anyone with power would create laws that jeopardize their power. We don't hold power to account in this country. We never have. And I mean, people talk about the legal system and then they call it the justice system, but that's crap, because people hate to hear this example, but slavery was legal. You know what I mean? So there are so many things. I mean, the move bombing was legal. If you don't know about the move bombing, look it up. The move bombing, I forget where it was, but the police literally dropped a bomb on a neighborhood in America. That was legal. So what's legal and what's right and wrong have nothing to do with each other. They've never been associated with each other. Laws and justice have nothing to do with each other. So for people to rely on what they call a justice system that's based on a bunch of rules written by people that created those rules expressly for their benefit is absolutely foolish. But that goes back to the educational system in this country, which robs us of all cognitive and critical thinking skills. So, that's where I am. That's where I am on that. You wonder why Black people don't trust the justice system, because it was literally created to rein us in and keep us held hostage, along with other people, poor people, Black people, along with any other POC, women. You know what I mean? So yeah, the justice system is a complete misnomer, and laws and justice are not the same thing, and they are not associated with each other in any way.
That's interesting. I believe the very same thing. I was like, it's amazing because the justice system and it has not had a come to Jesus moment with morality at all. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, so you think that's okay, even though that's a way you can bend that law. That's a way you can bend that.
Yes.
Uh, Especially at the cost of life, man. We don't put value on human life, and this country never has, especially as it relates to minorities and Black
No.
and brown people. It's pretty ridiculous, man. And
Any life, really, though. That is, there is racism and whatnot, but that you don't even have to pull the race card on that lack of the value of human life in this
right,
in this country. You don't actually have to play the race card with that. It it
right,
it, it, it stands alone. It does.
yeah, that's real, man. It's pretty ridiculous that we live in a society that don't value human life. That I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, again, like I said, it doesn't really matter the race. It's ridiculous that
Yeah.
as humans that we don't value human life and human existence in this country is extremely problematic. Now, so you said you watched in and out of the debate. I could not watch the debate at all. I could only watch like highlights, and I just watched the highlight reel. And if those highlights were anything like that actual 90 minutes, I'm surprised like the ER is not running over with people having extreme anxiety attacks, extreme, like, I mean, just like cardio, just like what the, because I watched a highlight, I was like, what? I just could not process 98% of what was happening. I'm like, this could not be real. This is not happening.
Don't misunderstand. I was not in and out of the debate. I watched the first 1 minute and 30 seconds of it and gave up, and then tried again, and then I gave up when Donald Trump said, and I quote, "Don't you ever use the word smart with me." You went to He said, "Don't you ever use the word smart with me," and then talk about how he graduated from whatever school at the lowest of his class or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so this is what we do, right? Like, that's not even ad hominem. That's literally just a personal attack for no reason. And this is what we've come to see as acceptable here. Um, so
Yeah,
no, but please don't misunderstand. I was not in and out. I that's not accurate.
man, listen, dude, and so now after the debate, it was I saw some other footage afterwards where there was a reporter that sat down with some people who were undecided, and so they were like, well, I don't know if I want to vote for Biden. I don't know if I want to vote for Trump. I'm still undecided. And then he was like, okay, after this debate tonight, what did you learn? And people was like, well, I'm still undecided. Man, listen, I would say this. If a green alien came out of the sky and said, I want to be the president, I'm like, go for it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go with that guy. Only because, man, anything to move that Trump card out of the way, it's problematic on so many levels. The fact that he won't own this white supremacy stuff, or maybe he does own it.
No, no, yeah, no. He owns it. He won't denounce it because he does own it.
Right, right. He does own it, but he won't denounce it. And that's all crazy by itself. And after giving multiple opportunities to do so, he just like, what?
Well, they're fine. Well, they're fine people, is what they are. So
And it's interesting how it's interesting how in those moments he's extreme or he tries to, find that middle ground and be politically correct, sort of kinda, because he don't want to offend. But in everything else, he's like, blah, it's what it is. This is some BS and it's fake news and it's this and it's all that. And
he draws a hard line on everything but white supremacy.
which is interesting. So what does that say about this guy?
Well, the funny thing is that people say Donald Trump is stupid. I don't believe that. I don't believe it for a second. I believe he is very smart, actually. I mean, look at what he's done with his taxes. The man is a billionaire, and he manages to pay $750 in taxes. Now, people will say, well, that's because he lost so much money. Yeah, he had that money to lose. He's still balling. So, he's very smart. But the man is pure evil. Now, make no mistake, I am not a fan of Joe Biden. Joe Biden wrote the law that started well, not started, but furthered the
Was the busing thing?
no, not the busing thing. Just basically the black people or black men rather being jailed at levels that are inconsistent with the ratio of the population, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. He and Kamala Harris actually came together to push that forward. And now they're what the DNC decides we need to defeat Donald Trump, who is flat out racist. So you have I on Facebook in general when I'm typing, I like to use the word RA_IST because you can put a C or a P there, you know what I mean, and it applies to both of them. So I mean, as far as Biden being so much better than Donald Trump, it's not that I even believe that. It's that I believe there are people in Biden's ear who can maybe exert some pressure on him, as opposed to the people on Donald Trump's side are just kind of either running around like, oh my God, what do we do? We have no idea.
Right.
This man is undercutting us and he's destroying us. Or they're, yes, sir. Correct, sir. Right, sir. And they do everything he says. So on the Republican side of things, you have a group of people who are split right down the middle with, we don't know what to do with this guy and he's destroying us. And those people are completely ineffectual. They can't do anything about him. Because the other half, of course, is just so far up his butt you can't tell where they end and he begins. And then on the other side, you have the Democratic Party, who once again screwed Bernie out of the nomination. It's all a ruse, man. I don't know. It's hard to even talk about because you get back to the same thing every time. It's all a ruse and none of it. It just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem real because it's not real.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy in these streets. It's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty crazy, man. So, I mean, so in your social circles, how are your friends? Are they talking about it like, hey, man, we can't touch none of that cray? Uh, do you see more people unplugging from this process because it is so convoluted, so just it's pretty
Yes.
ucky right now. Yeah.
Yes, I do see that. I see a lot of that. It's very interesting because people will look at a guy like me and say, "Well, you hate anyone who doesn't agree with you," which is hilarious because I was hanging out with two of the most conservative people that I know last night, and they're my very good friends, and I love them very much. And I like being around them because they're good people. We don't agree, which was funny because they said that same thing. I told them that people say that about me, and they're like, "We don't agree with you on anything. You're here. We love you." I'm like, yeah, and I love you guys. So, a lot of people are definitely unplugging from this because we're seeing the division that it's causing, you know what I mean? And that's not to say that our principles aren't important, but I mean, even going back to the Bush era, you saw people be able to talk about politics, disagree vehemently at that, and then, well, whatever, want to go get a beer, and and everything's fine. And I still have those relationships, but yeah, I mean, as far as my social circle and whatnot, a lot of us are definitely choosing to put this aside. I mean, whether we agree on it or not, because it's so incredibly depressing, um, that there's really no point in talking about it. First of all, because if you're undecided, you just haven't been paying attention, and if you're decided, you're already convinced. You know what you're doing. So what's the point in having such a polarizing, horribly upsetting conversation? There isn't one really. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that debate, I felt like I was like, oh, that was a complete waste of money, time, resources. They should just not do debates. I don't think it
Absolutely.
helps people to get clarity about who to vote for at all. I think it just makes a mockery of this entire country. At
Well,
least this one particularly has. It's like, whoa, we
what,
crazy
what
out in these streets.
what people need to realize is that it's not actually a debate. The term debate for what we have with presidential candidates is actually a 100% misnomer, because in a debate you state a premise and then you support that premise with arguments that you have, and a
Right.
moderator is able to control the situation. A moderator is impartial, and a moderator points at things, like invalid arguments. Or and I mean, even if a moderator doesn't, it's incumbent upon a person who is also, it's incumbent upon the debaters to point out those weaknesses, in each other's arguments. You know what I mean? But neither Joe Biden nor Donald Trump did that. I don't believe they have the wherewithal to do so, to be honest, because that's just not what our educational system teaches us anymore. We don't know what logical fallacies are. We don't know how to state a premise and back it up with fact. In fact, uh, I could have worded that better, huh? But anyway, what we've done in this country is that we've decided that opinions have inherent value, even if they fly in the face of facts. I was talking with a friend's parents, because this friend is very, very liberal and her parents are very, very conservative. And I was there, for dinner, and we were hanging out. They ordered pizza. I was helping them hang up Christmas lights. This was a while ago. And of course, a political conversation strikes up between the daughter and the parents. And my thing was, okay, wait a minute, when does the truth come in? And then her mother said to me, well, my opinion's my opinion and you don't have to agree. I'm like, okay, but what if your opinion is that the sky is red with bright yellow polka dots? It's just not true. You can't have an opinion that is literally a falsehood. That's not an opinion. An opinion is your analysis of facts, but we've gotten away from dealing with actual facts. So once again, a debate. This is not what a debate is. What we watched last night was definitely not a debate, but it wasn't even a debate in the context of the debates that we've had before. But the debates that we've had before are plain and simply not debates. They're just not. That's not how debates work.
You know what's interesting? I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, Stephen Thurston, and we were talking about illiteracy. And one of the statements that we were talking about that he had brought up was he would say the most illiterate people amongst us are not the people that can't read and write. It is those people who cannot learn or unlearn and relearn.
Yes.
And that spoke volumes to me because that's exactly what we're dealing with. You get people that are stuck in their own ideals, which is their opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, we have to come to the when do you come to the place like, wait a minute, what if I'm wrong though? And how does that affect everything around me? And so I think that's a whole nother challenge that we have to challenge the illiterate amongst us, the people that can't unlearn bad information and then relearn something new. And that's all this clash is based on illiteracy in one area or another. Your thoughts?
Challenging those people does no good because they are unwilling, first of all, to consider that they could be wrong. And second of all, they are unwilling to, like you said, accept new information and change their views based on what they've learned. I took a logic class. I was maybe 19. And if I wasn't actually taking school very seriously, and I even flunked that class. I'll just be honest. But a few of the things that I took from that logic class was, one, everyone has dogma. Dogma is literally just your inability or unwillingness um, to change your view on something in light of evidence. One, everybody has that. Everybody does it. No one's perfect. Of course, we all know that no one's perfect. But what I learned was that everything that I believed and everything that I thought I understood was simply based on utter nonsense. None of it was based in fact. It just didn't work, and there was no reasoning actually associated with it. And that is when I went back and took inventory, on everything that I believed and everything that I said was real, and realized that I had a lot of mistaken ideas and that I was operating in a lot of fallacy. Um, and I had to change that. But when I changed that, I found myself at odds with damn near everyone around me, and that became frustrating because I had to realize that in America we take it as a badge of honor, um, to double down on dogma. We've actually been taught that that is how you're supposed to react. And in a debate or even a conversation wherein two people disagree is actually a struggle for supremacy, as one of my friends put it. It's not about ascertaining the truth at the end of the conversation. No, it's a struggle for supremacy, and the truth actually does not matter. Being right is what matters. So that I don't really know what to do with it. Yeah, and it puts me in a position to where it's difficult to talk to anyone, about any of these things. It doesn't.
Yeah.
None of it really works. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I changed my value set to what is the truth, and that's where you need to be. And it's a shame because people won't, once again, just consider that they may be wrong. Me, I challenge myself every day. I challenge what I believe every day with my views. Um, I do that every day. So the fact that other people literally just refuse to do it is just a tad bit frustrating.
Yeah, but I think that's the life class. That's what we need to try to help people to do is to challenge their ideals because the world obviously moves very very fast, and just like technology is always upgrading. I say this almost every week. Technology is always upgrading, and we like to upgrade ourselves with that technology. So, like, when a new iPhone comes out, people that are iPhone heads, they go grab after it. If there's a new car that they like to come out, they'll upgrade their car. They're like, this house is better. They'll upgrade their house. They'll upgrade everything around them without considering the fact that, wait a minute, I may be due an upgrade here. And if I don't constantly challenge my
Well,
ideals, I could be left in the 18 damn hundreds. And
or
that's where
earlier.
some of these people are. They're ghosts, bro. They're
Yes.
ghosts. Yeah, so I have my boy Dell Lundy, and I think so that's good, Fee, because she did mention about ego, and I think that's really what it is. Exactly what you're talking about, Brandon. Um, that in these debates, it's about ego. Ego is flared up, and so it's about just proving or not even proving a point that their point is right. That's based on fact, but just hey, I just got to be right. I have to make the most sense, and so sometimes being right is overrated. You know what I'm saying?
It's
Um,
very overrated.
yeah,
It's
so
very
it's like
it's
you
oh
just got to be like,
yeah.
sometimes that's overrated. And depending on the situation, like the whole thing with Breonna Taylor. So fine, there's a loophole in the law for them to get off with murder. That's wrong,
It
and you
is
want to
wrong. Yes.
justify that right. That's wrong. So
Yeah.
this country frustrates me in a lot of ways. So I have my boy Dale. What's up, Dale?
Hey, how are you, man? Sorry for being late.
And no, it's no problem, man. Hey, turn your phone to the side. It'll fill the screen up a bit better.
Okay. Like, let's see.
Or are you? Is it on the stand, Brandon? I mean, Dale.
No, it's not on the stand. I'm holding it.
Oh yeah, just turn it to the side.
Okay. Let's see.
There's like you flip it over.
No, flip it.
Oh, flip it. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay, then it should adjust. It'll adjust in 5, in 4, in.
No, there's an. Are you using an Android? If you swipe down from the top, there should be a little
Uh-huh.
icon that says rotate, auto rotate.
Just leave it there, bro. Leave it there. We good.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Okay.
it's not a big deal.
Okay, cool. So yeah, bro. So I know there's a lot that you can speak to when it concerns. Let's talk about the Breonna Taylor situation.
Mhm.
So the Attorney General made a case to not charge the officers with her murder. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, to me, it's just more of the same. We have this myth in America that we're a post-racial society, um, and I believe that the harshest truth is that this country will never be a post-racial society. As long as when you fill out a job application, you have to declare your ethnicity, not even your ethnicity, your race. Because first of all, we have to understand black and white are not ethnicities, they're social classes. When you look at our skin, it isn't black. When you look at a Caucasian skin, it's not white. Those are social constructs. It is literally about the old white is good, black is bad, is as basic and elementary as that concept is. That is what our racial construct is. Um, to further that point, at one time, the United States wanted to label Italians and Irish people as black, and Irish people, skin-wise, are almost translucent. But it was about a social class, and the Irish, they said, look, even if we're not white, you can't label us black. We've got to be better than the field animals. Same thing with Italians. That was their whole thing about rebelling against the tap. No, we're not black. We're better than field animals, even if we're not white. And so the whites and Italian, I mean, Irish people and Italian people weren't truly considered white until after slavery, when they had to make them white because they had to find a way to cut the newly freed slaves out of Reconstruction. And so when you talk about what happened with Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, the fact specifically with Breonna Taylor and why it was okay for those police officers to do what they did, it's because unfortunately, even when it comes to the most liberal white people, there's there's a sense of superiority. And see, we have to realize that superiority and hate are not the same things. Racism and bigotry are not the same things. You can be a bigot and not a racist, and you can be a racist and not a bigot. A racist, just see, it's an ism. It's a system. So you can love black people and still support a system that rewards whiteness and punishes blackness. And that's what we have. We have a racist system. And when we say this, a lot of white people get, riled up and defensive and say, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. Well, as an individual, it's kind of hard to be racist because you have to have a system that allows for it. You don't have to hate black people to be racist. You can have a black granddaughter and be racist. You can have a black spouse and be a racist. Because, and this is where 9 out of 10 of even the most good, kind-hearted people, kind-hearted Caucasians, are racist, in the sense that if they were given the choice of giving up their privilege, 9 out of 10 would say no. Jane Elliott did the blue eyes, blonde hair experiment, and it showed how we have a society that basically, and it's not even just it's not unique to America. Anywhere where you have a majority and a minority, the majority will take care of its own, and the minority will get the lower end of the stick. Some places have more balance than others. Some places have less balance than others. But wherever you have a majority and a minority, the majority will always take care of its own, and will always the minority will always be second-class citizens. So even when you look at America today, when you talk about the classes of people that are most looked down upon, and I mean, I'm just gonna go in order. I mean, you have Caucasians at the top of the list. Then you have Eastern Asians right up under them, and then you have Southern Asians, i.e., Indians or people from the Indian subcontinent, under them. And then after that, you have Hispanics and Latinos, and then at the very bottom of that, and this is affecting everything from healthcare to the justice system to wealth, is black people. And why is this? Well, yeah, oh yeah, and see that now, and the fact that I forgot about indigenous tells you where they sit in this country. So like, and the indigenous are a great example, because, and this is just a little bit off course, but I'm gonna bring it back to the point when they talk about, Egypt as being a society founded by Europeans and Arabs. Now, it's obvious that Egypt is in Africa. Even in Egypt's own history, their own recorded history, they tell you We came from the South. We came from Uganda. That's what they're telling you. We came from Uganda and we moved up here. We built this society first in Uganda, and then we moved up the Nile, and you can see the progression of the civilization as they go from primitive to less primitive all the way till they get to the north, to Egypt, where they have perfected their civilization. But through the course of history, through the many invasions of Europe, of Egypt, they have come in and they have made it an Arab and European society. You go to Egypt now, you have to go all the way to the very south to Khartoum, almost in Sudan, before you start seeing black people.
Yes.
And if you never go to Khartoum, then you might, it'll be easy to fall into the trap of thinking, you know what? This was a white and Arab society, because I don't see any black people around here. Where are the black people if this was a black society? We have the same thing now in America. Where are the indigenous people? They're on reservations. You have to go looking for them. If you live in certain pockets of the United States, you could go your whole entire life and never see an indigenous person face to face. And so that's just a sign of where they are in the social caste. I will say this, they have it better than black people, but that's only because they've been completely separated from what we know as America.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
That's the only reason.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason they have been completely separated from America. We haven't been completely separated because even though we get paid for our work, we are still the labor class. And that's what racism is about. It's about establishing a ruling class and establishing a labor class. It just happens to be that race is the construct that they use to decide who was who in this country. And so the Hunger Games, the Hunger Games brought up an excellent point, because then they'll say, because a lot of people say, well, if it's like that, then why do you have the Oprahs and the Michael Jordans of the world? Well, in the Hunger Games, the guy who was the control, I can't remember his name, but the evil guy who was controlling it all said, you can't let people have too much hope because they'll overthrow you. But you can't leave them hopeless because they'll overthrow you. So you have to find the balance. They know if we have no hope, we will tear this mother down. But at the same time, if we get to a point where we feel like we're powerful enough to take our lives into our own hands, we will tear this mother down because we know we've been treated unjustly. So they have to keep us somewhere in the middle. You have to have those who slip through the cracks and ascend into whiteness, literally. So if you were to ask the question, are Oprah and Michael Jordan black? No, they're of African descent, but they're white. They have been washed white. It doesn't mean that they don't love black people. It doesn't mean they totally turn their back on black culture, even though they have. But I'm not saying this it doesn't mean that. But they have ascended to whiteness. They can go into these boardrooms with people with the last names like Cohen, and they can go into those rooms and feel cut. Jay-Z and Beyonce, they have ascended to whiteness. LeBron James, as much as he does for the black community, and like I said, once again, this is not a sign of how these people feel about the black community, is just how our social construct is built. LeBron, Kobe, God rest his soul, they ascended into whiteness. And so, that's and that's the difference between the main difference between the conservative and liberal ways of dealing with minority communities is the way that the tools that they use to maintain the status quo. Conservatives do it by empowering those who the country was built for, those of European descent. Democrats do it through petting us to if you reward somebody, you make them feel good enough right where they are, then they won't reach for more. So the Democrats will say, look, we love you, so we're gonna give you this check. All you have to do is get that man out of your house because we, the Democrats, got you. Don't worry, we will maintain the lawlessness of your neighborhood because you don't like the police. That's what the Democrats will do for you. So they have the same goal, different tactics, and that's why personally, I was telling somebody today, I no longer participate in our political system until we have a candidate that is actually serious about undoing the damage done by slavery, undoing the damage done by Jim Crow, undoing the damage done by what you mentioned earlier, bro, the mass incarceration, undoing, because every step of the way, whenever one limiting construct was removed, there was another one put in place. Well, okay, they freed us and then they gave us Jim Crow. They lifted Jim Crow, they gave us mass incarceration.
And redlining.
And they gave us the welfare system that breaks up families, and gave us redlining that relegated us to inner cities where jobs were moving out of. So this was, people say the system is broken. No, it's working the way that it's
doing
been
exactly what it's
designed
supposed to be
and
doing.
redesigned. So what happened with Breonna Taylor, given the way that this country is designed, that's how it was supposed to go, unfortunately.
Yep.
Everything went the way it was supposed to go. So, we don't have and we don't have any radical candidates who are actually serious about undoing these things, whether it's Joe Biden now, whether it's Hillary Clinton in 2016, or whether it's Barack Obama in 2012 and 2008. We haven't had one candidate who's come out and said, not said, but put action behind saying slavery, Jim Crow, and the rest of these messed up policies, half of them written by conservatives, half written by Democrats. We need to undo this damage. We need to have a serious talk about reparations. We need to have a serious talk about healthcare reform. We need to have they'll do prison reform, but even that, it's a Trojan horse in a sense. Donald Trump, he let out a few high profile criminals, but like the one lady who he released, who she had gotten caught in the middle of the drug deal, her first ever offense, and she did 30-40 years for it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad the woman has her freedom, but he knew what he was doing. Like you said, Donald Trump is very smart. He bought a mouthpiece when he did that.
Absolutely.
He bought him another campaigner. Now,
Absolutely.
anytime he's in a black city, she gets up and talks about how wonderful the man is.
Absolutely.
So, these people are playing chess, they're not playing checkers. And until we have a real reformer, I'm not gonna I don't believe in choosing the lesser of two evils, because who's to say whose evil is lesser? At that point, it's a matter of opinion, and like you were saying earlier, once again, bro, opinion is given way too much validity in this country. This is a country, unfortunately, that has become run by opinion. Your opinion is just like a clothing accessory these days. You fit into this pod, or that pod based on your opinion, and that just defines what social groups you are welcome in. Now your opinion is a sign of your intelligence. I mean, and just speaking honestly, because I'm neither liberal or conservative, I just choose not to participate. But the way things are constructed now, if you're a liberal, then you're seen as more intelligent. Your opinion is held with more regard. If you're a conservative, you're a knuckle dragger and an idiot, a religious zealot with no common sense. If you're a liberal, you're just an intellectual atheist with no regard for human life. Those are the lines that they've drawn. So you fit into either camp, and where we're at is sickening. And I will tell you this: as angry as Black people are about not getting justice for Breonna Taylor, we would see some real trouble if they did give her the justice that she really deserves. You think we're mad? Wait until the same people who say you need to have guns to keep police from busting in your house, they would have been pissed off had Breonna Taylor been given justice. Because the same people who believe you have the right to own a gun to protect yourself from law enforcement are the same people who are saying, well, her boyfriend shouldn't have shot at the police. It's just a shame. We have one set of laws with two different sets of results. Those for a set of results who have been for those who have been accepted as white, and those who have been deemed black.
So much stuff. BC, what you got?
First of all, hey, brother Dell, can we be friends, bro?
Absolutely, man.
No, man. I just but you took all the words out of my doggone mouth. I did. But look at what he said.
It was good, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. And it says so much crazy stuff about, the world that we live in or what we allow. So I mean, so Dale, you don't believe in being a part of the political process. I get that. So what do you think that people should do? So are you encouraging people not to vote or not? Because you're saying it's obviously it's you. So what you decide to do is on you. So then how does the country change? How does it shift?
So I broke my decision not to vote down because, of course, anytime a black person says they don't vote, there's your ancestors died for your right to vote. Well, I believe that they also would want me to use my vote wisely. And we have to understand that your vote is currency. It's the only currency that you have in this system if you are not of the powers that be.
Lord have mercy.
And so I look at it like our grandparents would say, if there was nothing worth buying, then they left their money under the mattress. They didn't go just because they saw a commercial and go out and buy the product. No, I'm gonna wait till something worthwhile comes along. And so I see my vote as a vote of no confidence in the system. That's what it. So I'm voting, just not at the polls. It's my vote of no confidence in the system. And to be honest, who do we have the better chance with as far as getting some progress? From liberals, but not this election cycle. My theory is that they have to lose a couple of more times maybe before they will come literally on their hands and knees wanting the black vote back and saying we will do whatever. And I feel like 4 more years of Trump will drive them just that crazy. Look, I am going to have the biggest, grandest time ever on November the 6th when they announce this man's name again. Not because I want him to be president, but because I want to see them people go crazy like they did in 2016 when he won. It was entertaining. So, let them win and watch their head spin. That's my theory.
All right, Brandon, your comment.
Well, me, what I think most people fail to understand is that one, there is a relative, left and right in this country, but there's something called the Overton window, and the Overton window is just the spectrum of acceptable political discourse within a society. Now, the problem with the Overton window in the United States, even though Overton himself was reticent to use that the Overton window in relation to left and right politics, is we are a wholly conservative society. People are unwilling to accept that, but that's because they don't understand the actual left to right spectrum, which is of course obsolete, but they don't understand it. They don't understand it in its fullness, obsolescence aside, because what people see as left here is wanting healthcare for all, and God forbid for black people not to be shot when they haven't committed crime. Right? That's what we call the left in this country. That has nothing to do with leftism. Leftism, real leftism, is repatriating the assets of people who make too much money and redistributing that wealth. Real leftism is not anywhere. It doesn't even closely resemble in any way what Democrats do here. I've said this for years. There is no American left, and there is not. The Democratic Party is just right of the center line, and the Republican Party is very, very far right of the center line. We have no left. Now, if you have to ask about my political views, no, I am an actual leftist. What that means, I can talk to you over a glass of water or beer or whatever, because it's not what we're here for at the moment. But so the whole illusion of the left and right in America is what we use to divide people, which is why I'm in full agreement with Dale on his vote of no confidence. I will be voting, as is my choice. It is what it is. But I definitely don't. But Brother Dale, I commend you.
I get it.
Because it's funny. so many people around the world are laughing at us right now for the very specific reason of we think that there's going to be some radical change if Joe Biden gets elected president. And it's so incredibly naive that it makes my head spin, because what did Bill Clinton do for us? That's the thing, is people are talking about, the rioting and, we're fed up. We're fed. No, the hell we're not. Because you know what? If we were actually upset, we would have been rioting since Rodney King. I've said this many times.
That's true.
What did we
That's true.
get? We got nothing. We got some sort of symbolic whatever. We went through the rigmarole and said, we mad. And they said, oh, there. Like you said, brother, they pet us. You know what I mean? And they pet us and said, it's okay. We like you. And we said, okay,
Yes.
okay, fine. And we'll calm down and we'll be good little house Negroes. And now we've come back to this place. And I'm getting to a point of being able to be proud of our community, because despite the fact that they're not being televised, there are constant protests. And another thing that does make me very happy is that those protests are very diverse. In fact, if you look at the BLM movement nowadays, it's honestly been co-opted by white people. And
Yes.
you know what? I think that's great. People are upset about it. Nope. I think it's wonderful, because we are at a point to where you actually have a small group of people willing to use their privilege to help those without privilege. When those two brothers got arrested at the Starbucks, there were white people who knew they stood no chance of being brutalized or arrested or anything for using their mouths, used them. This is wrong. What are you arresting them for? This is racist. This is BS. And those people we actually have people who are willing to stand up now. We have people who are willing to put themselves in harm's way. Jane Fonda, Ben and Jerry, they've all been to jail protesting about us getting shot. So when people say, oh, well, BLM movement's not the BLM movement anymore because white people have co-opted it. Yes, the hell it is. You know why? Because they're the ones who have power, and they're the only ones who are going to be able to get results. Because as you see, when niggas speak up, we get put down.
Yes.
So what do we have to do? We need allies. And now people are mad that we have allies. That's the problem that we have in the Black community, is you don't want allies. Now, how do you expect for people to have empathy, but when they use it, you shame them? Oh, you don't know what our struggle is like. You don't have to know what the struggle is like to say that it's wrong.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
That has nothing to do with anything. It's called empathy. And once again, we want people to empathize with us, but then when they do it, we shame them. And it's utterly ridiculous. I have a friend named Jason, and he came to me. He was upset. He was like, man, how is it that I'm trying to be an ally and I'm getting told to shut up because I'm not Black and I shouldn't have an opinion? I'm like, man, I don't know. And it goes back to the Bible, for which I have much more respect for than the people who base their lives upon it. But I digress. It said, it said, my people suffer for lack of knowledge, and something is going down outside my house. I do apologize. Okay, they're gone. At least that one gone. My people suffer for lack of knowledge. It just goes back to that illogicality that I was talking about, and not understanding the fallacy. We're caught in a feedback loop to where we want help. And then when we get help, we want those people to shut up and sit down. It doesn't really make any sense. So that's why we're kind of at this impasse, to where we can't really move forward, because we don't want to employ the tools that we need to actually move forward.
Right.
So we're stuck there. And then, like you were saying, Dell, we have this illusion of being a post-racial society. But if we were a post-racial society, then we wouldn't have this template for normalcy. We wouldn't have brown babies in cages on the border, but then you have these people who call themselves pro-life, talking about don't have abortions. Okay, so a child that is born is less important than a child that is unborn. And on top of that, if a fetus was a person, then why aren't pregnant women getting bigger stimulus checks?
Come on now.
I realize it seems like I'm rambling, but it all comes back. It's all of these things fit together because these are the things that we're taught, and they fit together and they form a web. And no, not even a web. It forms a labyrinth. You make a left turn, you make a right turn, and you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into this abyss of dogma and ignorance. We're unable to think. We're utterly mentally incapacitated, as the big homie Optimus Prime would say. We're utterly mentally incapacitated. And there's really no way to get out of it unless we overhaul everything that we do and start with the educational system. In my opinion, I should not have had to take a logic course as an elective for philosophy majors in college. I should know what a logical fallacy is before I get out of the third damn grade. I should be able to use critical thinking skills before I get out of the first grade. You should know all of these things, but they don't want to teach you that. Why? Because it's not beneficial for them. So, like I said, none of this stuff really works. We have the Black community, which puts ourselves and tries to insulate ourselves. You know, people say, "Oh, well, we were better when we were by ourselves." Yeah, to some degree, but we had no sovereignty. What are you talking about? If we were insular, if we had some sort of sovereignty, then Black Wall Street would still stand. But it does not. So for us to want to separate ourselves from the country wherein we live with no form of sovereignty, with no anything like that, is just utterly ridiculous. But once again, we're mentally incapacitated. We can't see the flaws in the way that we're thinking. And then when you get to the white people, they're just kind of, oh, look at the Black people arguing amongst themselves. Let's move into their neighborhood. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same thing. You have these, it is like you were saying, you can be a racist and not be a bigot, and vice versa. Racism has nothing to do with hatred. That's why you point at a racist and say, "You're a racist," and they say, "No, I'm not. I don't have a hateful bone in my body." I didn't say you were hateful, dummy. I said you're a racist. They have nothing to do with each other. When the transatlantic slave trade had nothing to do with hatred. Black people were a resource. It's a difference. It's not hatred. They didn't care about us one way or the other. They didn't care about us one way or the other. They didn't want us all to die. In fact, us dying was inconvenient. You know how much money they lost on the way from Africa to America? Because we was jumping off them ships like, I'm not finna do it. You have moms with their babies in their arms, chained to a bunch of other brothers like, y'all ready to go? Because we're not doing this. That's what it is. So the entire system going back that far has nothing to do with hatred. It's indifference. And like you said, it's a caste system. And caste systems exist all over this world. They exist on and this entire planet is full of caste systems. In fact, they're not even shy about calling it that in India. They're not even shy about it. And the thing about it is you have, I'm just going ahead and say it. People say, well, slavery was everywhere. And, you know, all of this stuff. You know what? But there is a single group. There's a single group that sought out to conquer the world. Europeans.
Yes.
Point blank, period. There have never been empires. Like, you know what? Okay, maybe the Ottoman Empire, I think, was pretty big.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know where that conquering spirit came from? Alexander the Great.
Absolutely.
He spread that all around. He spread that idea all around the entire world. He got to India. And he spread himself too thin because, you know, logistic concerns and communications and this and that. But that idea, that paradigm was spread, and there was no way to get away from it at that point. You name an African that sought out to conquer the world, I will wait right here. So at the end of the day, like what we can do to change this, the only thing we can do to even begin to want to change this is overhaul our education. Stop being mentally incapacitated. Understand what logic is. Stop putting inherent value on opinions that fly blatantly in the face of fact. Basically everything we do from when we wake up to when we go to sleep is based on nonsense. And nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to understand it. And that goes for black, white, yellow, brown, red, whatever. None of it makes any sense. And then you come back to America, like you said, you had Native Americans who are, on reservations and they're separate. They have a little bit of sovereignty. They were also killed by the millions. We want to argue about the Armenian genocide, and we will not acknowledge the genocide of the Native American people in this country. Yeah. For that matter, we won't acknowledge the genocide of African Americans, excuse me. And then they had the nerve to call us African Americans. You know what? To be honest, I prefer black to African Americans. Because how am I American? I have no stake in this society. I have no power in this society. And on top of that, for me to assume a cohesive identity with people who brutalize and oppress me is no less than Stockholm Syndrome. So I'll take the B word. Thank you. And change just has to go back to education, logic, and putting value on the truth. And if we can do that first within our community, then we could spread it out. But first, we got to stop alienating allies. We do it every day.
And something you said really stuck out to me. You know, I stopped identifying as African American, or definitely not just American, because that's you know, one of the most it falls more into the class of bigotry than racism, because it's not based on system. But that's one of the things that liberal white people or neoliberal white people tend to say to us a lot is, no, there's no African American, there's no white American, we're just American. No, I don't buy that either. I mean, and these are, you know, when we talk about Christianity, which is just a denomination of Judaism, one of the things that may
call it what it is.
It's a denomination. And if you want to be true to Judaism, it's a heresy of Judaism. But that's a whole nother thing. How can we tell the Jews that Jesus is their apostle? But that's another story. But yeah,
Did we just become best friends?
I think so, man. But yeah, it's definitely a heresy. It's a Judaic heresy, and one of the characters in the Old Testament that's the most beloved is Daniel. Why is Daniel beloved? Because in the land of Babylon, he refused to become a Babylonian. Now, we same people who get preached to about Daniel and about him facing the lions and about him remaining a good Jew while he was in Babylon are in America trying to become good Americans. We missed the whole lesson.
We miss every lesson.
You can't become a good American unless you're willing to deny everything that makes you who you are. Our policy, this is and I love what you were saying about leftism in America, and a lot of people look at me like I have an eye in the middle of my forehead when I say this, but we as people of African descent are...
Oh man, we lost. He'll come back.
Oh,
he'll come back. He probably disconnect.
Dang,
man, listen here. Dog. I know that Dell Lundy, man, bruh, I knew he was going to be so instrumental to this conversation because he brings another level of just information and logic about things that's just like, bruh, you stressing me out in a good way.
I'm about to go into a daggone panic attack, man. To be honest,
in a good way,
okay.
Bro.
You're going to lay it back on us again, ain't you? Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Let me put my seatbelt
on. We are endemically communist. That is our default setting.
Which is a dirty word.
Absolutely. Word. That dirty word. I'm talking about, I use the lowest word in the American lexicon. But yes, we are, by the fabric of our culture, we're communists, and you see it in our communities even today when we're operating at our highest level. I remember, we just have, when we have a barbecue, whether you were invited or not, if you're walking by, you want a plate, you can pretty much get one if it's a black barbecue. That's communism.
Especially if grandma there. Come on, baby.
Grandma. Yeah, you're not leaving hungry. I remember we had this, a few years ago, we was in a struggling situation, and our lights were out, and our neighbors next door, they had lights and all of that shit, but they didn't have any food. So we would take our food over there and cook, and we all ate together because together we knew that there was no reason that either of us should be lacking. And that is our default setting. That is our you can even see it in societies today, even today, still in Africa. where a child might not literally know who his parents are because he calls every woman around their mom.
Yeah, that's true.
Every every second generation woman is his mother. Every first generation woman is his grandmother.
And if you're a little bit older than me, then your auntie.
Then your auntie, yes, absolutely. And if it's only a year or two, then your big or little brother. Everybody identifies with their relation within the family construct. And so even this phrase that we say in America, and it surprised me to learn that it's not an American phrase. We brought it from Africa with us. I only learned this when I talked so I was talking to a friend. I have a friend from Kinshasa, Congo, and she said, and it was funny when she said this to me, it brought so much joy to my heart. I started just like rejoicing, and she didn't know why, but she said, yeah, we have this phrase in the Congo, it takes a village to raise a child. And I was like, what? That came from the Congo? We brought that from Africa with us.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we have to trying to be European, trying to be a good American. We're playing a losing game. We're going against who we are in nature.
Yes.
We are not capitalists because a capitalist system is evil in and of itself because you need something to capitalize off of, and that is usually the lowest class of people within society.
Regarding capitalism, the entire goal of capitalism is to get the most out of someone while giving them as little as possible.
Yes.
You know what that's called? Exploitation.
Exploitation
is built on exploitation.
Yes.
Continue, please.
And that's why you have people who are holding up the old guard who are dead set against raising the minimum wage. Like they argue that raising the the minimum wage will crash the economy. Why? Because now you can't force people to work for low wages to create and make cheap goods that you sell at cut rate prices because you mass produce the garbage. And not only that, guess what it does? If they raise the minimum wage, they have to slow down production. They have to charge more for their goods. And guess what that does? That gives third world countries a shot. Because in third world countries where they're still producing quality goods with their hands and not machines, and their goods are more expensive because they're higher quality and they're made by people and not machines. Now those places have a real shot in the global economy. And so, which is another reason that we cannot afford to assimilate, because our solution isn't even an American solution. It's not an American solution. It is a global issue with white supremacy. It is a global construct. That's what gives America, France, Germany, and England the right to decide that they don't like the leader of Zimbabwe. So now they can starve Zimbabwe because they don't like that they're or eliminate them altogether.
Right.
And now and this is going to go a little bit into 2016. Outside of the fact that I've lost complete confidence in the American system, another reason that no one attached to Obama could ever get my vote under any circumstances is because in 20 in his second term, he made a move. Hillary, Joe Biden got together with whoever the prime minister of France was at that time, whoever the Theresa May, I believe, was still the prime minister of Great Britain at the time. And then they got with the Chancellor Angela Merkel, and they said, you know what? This Muammar Gaddafi is getting ready to make Africa a first world power. Or at least that's what he wants to do. That's what he's been working on for the last 30 years. They've been trying to kill this man for 30 years. They have killed every child of his just trying to get to him. Think about that. Could you imagine? Just and please, if there's anybody who watching who just know this is a hypothetical. But let's just say we just sat down and decided, you know what, we don't like Donald Trump. We're gonna do anything we can to get him out of here. And then we mess around and take out Eric, Ivanka, and Donald Jr. trying to get to him. Can you imagine the shitstorm that would come? And so the fact that a lot of times we don't even blink an eye when we talk about these leaders who we've destroyed their whole families to get to them, destroyed whole communities trying to get to these people.
Innocent people who ain't got
Muammar
nothing to do with
Gaddafi,
innocent people who ain't got nothing to do with them. Collateral damage.
innocent people, yeah, innocent people with nothing to do with it. Gaddafi had around 13 children. He's got one child left now, and he's in hiding, scared for his life to let anybody European know where he lives, where he's at. He's gone radio silent. That's the only thing he could do to save his life. 13 kids, all of them except for one dead, all because they wanted to get to Gaddafi. So what was Gaddafi trying to do? He wanted to unite Africa under a standard of either gold or oil, because Africa has the most of both in the world.
Period.
If they decided they were going to trade in oil, it would have bankrupted our oil system. Our oil wouldn't have been worth shit because they would be using it for currency. If they decided that they were going to use it for gold, then damn, they might be the only country in the world with money. So with real valuable money. And so they decided it was better to kill this man than to let him empower the continent that he was raised in. And as a result, now we have a slave trade in Libya. And this is what really did it for me. The Obama administration knew which political group stood to gain the most power.
I don't think he's having connection issues. Brandon, are you there?
I'm right here.
Okay, I think he's having some connection issues or whatever. Man, that dude is loaded.
No, well, I mean, what he's saying is spot on. You know what I mean? With like he was saying, the Obama administration is mostly responsible for what happened with Muammar Gaddafi, and the problem with it is that then, you know, we want to turn around and say, oh well, we had to do that to protect America. Protect America how? That's what really bothers me so much about the things that we do in the name of justice or protecting America. How are we protecting America from across an ocean? If we're really protecting America from anything, then we would actually be making a stand here, or at least in the Pacific or the Atlantic. You can't attack us from Canada or Mexico. You can't do it. We're surrounded by oceans, deserts, and mountain ranges. We're one of the most impenetrable nations on this planet. But we're protecting, you know, America, right? And it's like he was saying, you know, about the currency. Muammar Gaddafi was, I believe it was mostly a gold-backed currency what they were trying to do, but they were trying to create a Pan-African currency. And the problem with that is it would devalue the dollar and in turn devalue the euro and in turn devalue everything that wasn't based on the African continent. That's why you have this very concerted disinformation campaign, propaganda campaign that is painting Africa as a third world country. But then you actually go to Nigeria, you actually go to Ghana, and these are, you know, they're bustling metropolises. There's high technology, you know what I mean? There's everything like that. We have to paint Africa as, I say we because I live in America, I'm a citizen, so I'm technically American, whatever, right? So I'll say we. I'll go ahead and say that and take my part in the responsibility. We have to paint them how we paint them, because if we don't, we lose the perception of power. And power is all about perception. Power is 100% about perception, because if we perceive ourselves as powerful, then we do powerful things. Americans perceive themselves as powerful, and so they had a powerful revolution and created a nation, right? So power is 100% based on perception. Hell, some scientists would say reality itself is based on perception. So if we perceive Africa as a place with high value, and a place that is worth even being, you know what I mean? We would have an exodus from so many countries to Africa. First of all, everybody on the planet is African. You may be a little bit further removed than other people, but we're all African. We all came from the Fertile Crescent. And when you have this stuff going on, regarding, Africa and whatnot. You allow for the exploitation of those natural resources. Like he was saying,
Right.
there's the most gold, the most oil, among other things, coltan that you need to make cell phones, things like that. You can't exploit a locale that has a perception of itself as powerful, or that the world perceives as powerful, because then once you're hurting someone with power, you're held to account. That's why black people don't get justice in this country, is because we're perceived as powerless, and so no one is held to account for messing with us, because no one has to care. If people have to care about you because they perceive you as powerful, then that's a problem. And which is why we had to kill Gaddafi, which is why we continuously destabilize the Middle East, is because once that perception of, and make no mistake, people don't see terrorists as powerful, they see them as scary. Power and fear are not the same thing, because you can love someone in power. Look at Donald Trump's followers. So they destroyed the actual tangible thing that Gaddafi was trying to do, which is create that gold-backed currency, create a Pan-African currency, unite the continent, and create power there, create cohesiveness to where they could start rising to their rightful place. But second, it created, or it furthered rather, the perception of Africa, is powerless. Look at their leaders; they just die. America snaps its fingers and their leaders die. There's nothing. It appears that there's nothing that Africans can do to counter what's going on. It's a very concerted campaign that's been going on for centuries. To be honest, I mean, you could even go back to the Inquisition. They were fighting against Moors. Moors are just people of African descent who moved north. And like I said, that's when you have the Ottoman Empire and and all of that stuff. So none of these things happen by accident. It's all a very specific, concerted effort. And make no mistake, I don't believe in like this cabal of people, you know what I mean, who have been around for hundreds of years. I don't believe in the Illuminati. The Illuminati is an illusion created by the actual Illuminati to keep your eyes off of them. Jeff Bezos isn't descended from Lord, Voldemort from 1700 or whatever. Like that's crap. You know what I mean? These things are malleable, but you can only get to those heights if you have some sort of privilege that you can actually use. And then that goes back to Africa and how they have to continuously exploit Africa and continuously suppress Africa, because if Africa is allowed to rise in prominence, first of all, capitalism and probably economics in general would just disappear. People want to look at communism and they say it's, this horrible thing. Why? Well, it encourages people to be lazy. Okay. So what you're saying is that people won't work if they're working for the greater good. First of all, that's objectively false, because you have indigenous societies everywhere, not just in America, but everywhere, that have been run to ground because they didn't fit with the paradigm of kill or be killed, every man for himself. People would rather starve to death than take a handout. And Dell was talking about how it is inherently African culture is inherently communist. Yes, it is, because when you look at communism is based on the idea that we all have a responsibility to each other. It's all about the whole, and people don't want to be about the whole. People don't want to have to care about the person next to them. They just want to care about them and theirs, not realizing that them and theirs is everyone and everything on this planet. Why are we killing the planet? Because we're short-sighted and foolish. We don't want to look at people who are next to us who might look a little bit different and say, no, this person and I, we're the same. No, that person is competition. And we're taught to be motivated by competition. I'm not motivated by competition. I'm motivated by cooperation. And it is scientifically proven that cooperation beats competition every single time. Because when you're thrown into, here you go. Because when you're thrown into this cycle of competition, you insulate yourself from the whole. You can't be a part of a system. A cog is worthless by itself. You have to put it in a system. We don't want to be a part of a system. And that is why we actually ignore systems. We ignore things like systemic racism, because we don't believe in systems in the first place. Everything is personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility. I have personal responsibility. I'm also responsibility for you, Dale. I'm responsible for you, Charlie. I'm responsible for my wife. I'm responsible for my friends. I'm responsible for the person who lives across the street who I have no idea who they are. Why? Because we are all in this together. But we
Right.
have been thrown in this paradigm of competition, and we've been thrown into this paradigm of dog eat dog. And the thing about it is, if Africa ever rose to prominence, that would die. It would die, and it would die very quickly, within maybe 100 years, and everybody would be much happier and more cooperative. But that doesn't work for people in power, because as long as you pit every single person against every other person, they can maintain their power because they're insulated from the system too. So if everybody decided to stop insulating themselves from the system, first of all, that would be everybody with very little power. All the ants would come together. You ever watch Transformers, Charlie?
Yep.
You know what Devastator is?
Yeah.
The Constructicons, right? We're
Mhm.
all very, very, very tiny Constructicons. And if we ever came together and realized that we could form Devastator, that would be horrible for people with a whole lot of money and a whole lot of power. That would be horrible for them because we would immediately be bigger and more powerful than them, and they don't want that. So they have to keep us separated, and they have to keep people who would spread a paradigm of cooperation. They have to keep them suppressed. They have to keep them down. And that's what it is about Africa. That's even what it is about uh, so many places, but specifically Africa, because it is you have these societies based on cooperation. That's why communism is a dirty word and capitalism is the savior of everything. Well, capitalism gave birth to all the comforts that we share today. What comforts? I can't breathe outside. I'm not comfortable. Even if you're rich in California, you're still not comfortable. You can't go outside. You can't breathe. The sky is gone, bruh. If you look straight up, it's gone because of the way we live and the way we do things and the paradigms that we've spread. Africa
So
stands against all of that.
yeah. So yeah, man, it's all of this information that we have access to, that we get from each other, and how we help challenge each other to think about things differently. Um, Obviously, it's a burden, right? Because we live in a system, we live in a society that we want to change, we want to be better, but and you have people say, well, you have to vote. I'm with that. I'm going to vote. I'm all about being a part of the process, especially if it's going to bring change. Anything that changes Trump is okay. um, I do agree with a lot of what we're saying about these political parties, that they do have to earn and work for the people that are putting them in office, and that's just not on the national level. We got to make sure we're holding state and local people to that same higher standard of because there's also that happen federally, but a lot of it takes a minute for it touches or affects us on a local level. And a lot of times what people don't realize is that you can deal with some stuff locally that can, what I'm saying, shift a lot of things in your community. And most people, where people got their eyes on this national election, it's like, yeah, that's an issue. But even more of an issue is who y'all electing as mayor and sheriff and aldermen over your areas. Because if they're not, there's supposed to be support systems for you as well. Everything can't fall and land on this president's shoulder, whoever it's going to be. We have to be tackling things locally as well. I mean, and we got to make sure that we are voting down the ballot and not just for this. People getting lost in this stuff, and it's pretty frustrating. And I think I said this on a couple lives prior. I always ask people, "Do you think we need more legislation?" And I'm just sick of legislation. So I sort of kind of feel like we keep um, throwing sugar on shit.
That's what we're doing. And I mean, as I said, laws and justice don't and have never had anything to do with each other. We can pass all the legislation we want, but when we come to the realization that it needs to be about the spirit of the law instead of the letter of the law, then we'll have the correct laws. Everybody wants to say, well, it's illegal. Well, it's illegal. Well, it's illegal. And you know what? If Donald Trump, just for example, loses the election and then decides to defy the peaceful transition of power in some sort of way, and there are actual words that support his stance, everybody's going to say, well, it's legal. It doesn't matter that it's wrong. They don't actually care about that because they have traded in their morals for legalism. So legislation, as you said, does nothing. I'm sick of legislation.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I know it's a process, and we have to be a part of it, but it's frustrating nonetheless. And so yeah, man, I just wanted, man, keep creating in this midst of this crate, bro. Keep creating, man, and I want to try to do this at least once a month, man. We get everybody together and just
Yeah,
flush stuff out because a lot of times we need to vent, and oftentimes we don't necessarily have the outlet, depending on who's in our circles. And I want to make sure that we have this platform to huff, puff, and cuss if we need to,
yeah,
uh, because I think it's needed. And then so I'm calling these series just checking in
yeah.
and just asking those questions like, how are you, man? So I am constantly sending you positive energy, man, and praying for you and praying for your well being and praying that you know, stay sane because it's tough. It's tough, bro. It's tough. It really is enough to drive any person that has good sense crazy if you don't have outlets. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this outlet. So I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this conversation, bro. And
Absolutely.
I'll set a date for it next month, and then let's see if we can get everybody to rally around it and we knock this thing out. And again, there's so much that we could talk about because there's so much crazy stuff going on. I know there's a lot of stuff that's weird that's going on in your area locally, and in my area as well locally, and then in the statewide, and it's just so much stuff that's
Yeah,
problematic. And so we don't profess to be experts at all. We're just
no,
men that are passionate about our community and passionate about the people that we service because we're creatives and we want sane people to come to our events. We don't want insane folk to be around. And so, any way we can help challenge levels of immaturity or illiteracy, then that's what this platform is, for the most part, is designed to do and be. So, brother, I thank you. I appreciate you for taking time out of your Thursday to come chop up with us. And
I
I'll throw
appreciate
some
you.
dates at you, man. And we'll try to get this thing. We'll be doing this once a month at least, and
Okay.
we knock it out, bro.
I mean, you know me. If it's one thing I can do is run my mouth, you know. And big shout out to Dell. I'm a holler at you, bro. I know you're probably watching. Shout out to you. I'm sorry for your phone troubles. And just a quick aside to anybody watching this, if you disagree or have a problem with something that we're saying, um, it's like he said. You know, we don't profess to be experts. I don't profess to know everything. The reason that I seem so self assured and so confident and so passionate about the things that I do say is because I weigh facts.
Right.
And people, you know, when people can say that, and I understand if you don't agree with me or whatever, but you have to realize that objective facts
Yeah.
do exist. There is truth, and that needs to be the goal of the conversations that we have. I'm sure Charlie would be okay with it if there's a person who disagrees completely with everything that we have said, and you're an articulate person and can have a respectful conversation. Yo, I encourage you to hit either one of us up and get on here, and we
Absolutely.
will chop it up with you. We want to hear
Absolutely.
from you. We want to hear from everyone, but I would encourage
Absolutely.
everyone to remain respectful, like I have not always been. I will admit that I'm working on it. I'm an unfinished work, as they say in the church. But yeah, we don't. It's like you said, we don't profess to be experts. I certainly don't profess to know everything. I know a few things, not everything, but you know, a wise man can admit that he knows very little. And at the end of the day, all of us know very little. But one thing that I know is that we're all in this together, and we when we can have conversations with the intent of ascertaining the truth, I think we can move forward. And so once again, I encourage anybody, even if you just want to hit my DM, Charlie's DM, or hit us up and say, "Hey, I want to come on the show next time." Holler
Absolutely.
at us. please.
Let's go. Let's go. So, man, I appreciate you, and I thank you guys too for tuning in to this episode of Moments of Clarity. It's been great. It's been, I mean, a lot of great information. So, please tag someone in the video. Please share. Please follow all of the guys that were here on this platform. They are great at what they do. Obviously, they're effective communicators, and so we want to make sure that we are doing that and helping people to illuminate ignorance. And guess what? Just like Brandon said, if there's an area that you want to illuminate our ignorance, you're more than welcome. Welcome to this platform again, but the idea is to make sure that you can have that conversation. So that means you definitely have to temper yourself. You got to be respectful because, yeah, ain't nobody got time for that. And I know all these brothers personally, and right, you so stupid. I know all these guys personally, and I do know for a FACT fact, that's facts on printer. They'll get you right together real quick if you come at them the wrong way. So let's and that's something that I hope that you can develop personally. But yeah, we got to be respectful in how we talk to each other. Either way, and you can disagree with someone without being disrespectful. Yes. So if you can't do that, then this is definitely not the platform for you, because yeah, you'll get cussed out. Until next time, I just want to thank you for lending your time and your energy to this episode of Moments of Clarity. And until next time that we do this, follow us on social media, follow us on Instagram, follow me on YouTube, follow Brandon as well as Dell that was here as well, Dell Lundy. And until next week, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for the time. Later.